Everyone. This is Joanne Geer. I'm Executive Director for the Westchester Biotech Project. Really want to welcome you this morning to our fourth Charrette. Originally, we were planning for this to be a full day at Fordham. Well, they've been wonderful partners to us, and but really appreciate everyone joining us today. I'm going to introduce Michael Welling, my partner, and he's going to give us a little background, and then we'll move on to our speakers.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, obviously, I hope this finds you and your family all safe and comfortable and healthy in these sort of uncertain and unpredictable times. Today's conversation was certainly in the works prior to this current world pandemic that we're in, but it has certainly, it being the pandemic, has highlighted even more so the sort of need for this type of dialogue and collaboration. The Westchester Biotech Project, for those of you who are new to our community here, we are a nonprofit organization that Joanne and I started with the simple mission of just trying to bring together people across the spectrum to share ideas, to collaborate, and to truthfully identify areas and ways in which we can make an impact on the research, on the science, on the work that's being done across the entire scientific continuum. As you see here, we have sort of three primary focus to our mission: lab to market, building the cluster, connecting community. The colors and the sizes of these dots have no specific interest other than making them aesthetically pleasing, but we do have them as circles or dots because connecting the dots is what we're here to do. And it's a theme that we sort of stress that for any of you who, again, are new to us and have not been part of one of our sessions before, we encourage you to reach out with ideas, thoughts, questions, ideas. Your contributions is really what helps us move this conversation and this dialogue forward. Today is the fourth charrette in a series of charrettes that we've been hosting sort of around this idea of data science, analytics, building the biotech cluster. And as I said, never has this been a greater need or a more obvious need to dig in. And while I'll be introducing our good friend, Paul Savage, here shortly, Paul has been certainly touting the need for proper healthcare analytics and data analysis, structure and infrastructure, and cross-organizational dialogue for years, even before we met him. And we're excited that we believe that we are today on a path to really make this a reality based here in Westchester. And while we call this, the Westchester International Data Hub, and you'll hear us talk more about that. It only has Westchester in its name because we're shining a light on the work that's being done here in Westchester, not that our interest is solely Westchester specific. And we have an international cohort of folks from around the globe that are contributing and sharing. And if for no other reason than, this is where we sort of planted our initial flag. This really is a cross-silo, cross-border, cross-nation initiative here. And our initiative, the Westchester Biotech Project, we've been rolling now, I think next month is our 4-year anniversary of official operations, but Joanne and I have been dating for like 6 years, I think, at this stage. But none of this would be possible without the support and contributions of, first off, all of you on the line today, but more importantly, all of our partners who have provided us support, financial, logistical, operational, services, etc. And many of those names you see here on the screen. And I always like to say, not only do we appreciate all of these folks supporting us, but we'd like to take whatever opportunity we can to help support them. So should there be a name on here you're not familiar with, should there be a name on here that you feel, hey, I'd like to talk to them about an idea, please let us know. Making those introductions is a critical component of what we do to build our community here. I want to just highlight one name on here in the center there. You'll see JP Morgan, that on February 27th, which at this stage might as well have been 10 years ago, we held a community breakfast, a state of the healthcare and biotech community breakfast in partnership with JP Morgan. We had one of their life science industry vertical leaders fly in from North Carolina to give an update on the market. It was attended by more than 100 local leaders and scientists, and it was a fascinating moment in our existence as we brought together the scientific community and the business community in a way that certainly in our immediate region has never done before. And we really believe that that was the turning point in moving many of our initiatives forward. It was also the last time any of us were probably face to face with anyone that's not our family. And for those of you who are there, we laugh now about how that fire alarm that occurred halfway through at the moment was such a, a burden and a problem. And listen, I'd welcome, multiple fire drills now if it meant we could all get together. One of our other partners and leading the way in our region is Biomed Realty Trust, who is currently, as we are speaking, investing heavily in a build out of new wet and dry labs at Ardsley Park here in Westchester. Just another moment in time that we are looking at is saying, hey, this really is a turning point, literally and figuratively, for our community and for what I believe not only how we're going to move forward, but with whom. Next slide there, Joanne. This is just a quote that we have included in almost every presentation that we have given, and it's something that Joanne has mentioned many, many times, which is, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. We credit, again, Paul Savage with an updated version of this, which is we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 weeks, let alone in the next 2 years. And we are seeing rapid change and growth and opportunity present itself as we make our way through these conversations. So again, I welcome everyone, and again, hope everyone is safe and comfortable where you are. We are excited about the conversation we're going to be having today, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our friend, our partner in crime in many ways, CEO of Healthcare Intelligence, Mr. Paul Savage. Paul, you want to take it away?
Good morning, and thank you very much. I appreciate this input. It is a wonderful opportunity. Although I've been associated with the group now for several months, it is certainly a challenge, and we're seeing firsthand the importance of data and data analytics and the sciences. The one area that I want to emphasize is that this is a team sport, that not one individual is going to be able to make the kinds of differences. And the data that we're dealing with, although data has been available for many, many years, we have not taken advantage of the data and the data resources we have. The development of high-tech and HIPAA for accessing data and the quality of the data and the privacy and the confidentiality are all very significant elements. But trying to manage the data and getting into predictive analytics, the bridging of the relationships with the life sciences industry, the provider industry, the insurance industry, and the kinds of data analytics that we can bring forward is tremendous. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. We have a couple of wonderful speakers for you this morning. And certainly, Joanne, I'd like to shift to you and let you introduce our guests.
Well, thank you, Paul. And Paul's leadership is really helping us to really develop a strategy that's the whole string of pearls of looking at data from the very, very earliest discovery through translation, through to clinical research, to practice, and all the way to population health. And to that end, I want to introduce Sanjay Mishra. And Sanjay, I'm going to make you the presenter, and I'm going to try to make you the presenter. And so you can show your slides. Would you like to start introducing yourself? And in a moment, we'll have a...
Sure. Yeah, so I am a structural biologist by training. For about 2 years, I invested my time in trying to be a vaccine developer, and I was trying to work for Zika and dengue antibodies. and the vaccine candidates. But at this moment, as it happens, I have also been interested in the data science as a healthcare outcome predictor. And so I just started working as a project manager at the Vanderbilt University. And my primary occupation was going to be for an effort that has been started by the American Cancer Society through their participation with the Project G. It's called Project Genie, and the idea has been that the data that has been siloed into major institutions, the big cancer institutions around the country, that should be put together into one harmonized way and then be able to utilized for purposes, practical purposes. So it's a big registry, but as it happens, right on the day one of my joining, we got, it was 30th of the March, and the COVID-19 had been raging. And so now here I am trying to build a different structure. So this is where my present involvement is. And I think some of you, I think you can see my screen. So this is where we are. We have launched this initiative, which entirely came out from, oddly, from the Twitter conversation. Dr. Akash Desai on the March of 16th, as he was in the middle of this crisis up in Florida, he brought this question that I think the doctors, the cancer doctors particularly, they should be aware of the problems that this sequestration and this crisis has brought in. So from his initiative, pretty soon, this has grown into what we have called now ccc19.org. It's a registry which is open to practically any doctor who approaches us. Although we have, as it happens in all of these things, eventually it has become more institutionalized. We are aware of the privacy restrictions. So based on that, we have a local IRB, which then can be reproduced at their local institutions. But and as you can see here, and this is late, I mean, this thing has grown so fast that any slide that I prepare for this would be late. As of this moment, we have at least 19 plus institutions in the United States. We have now begun to include the institutions in Canada, and Mexico is the next. And Europe has been on board, although in Europe and Asia, it would be their local continental organizations who will be the nodal agencies. We haven't quite figured out how to go around the Africa, but the point is, I think within the end of this month, we will have a global registry of the cancer patients who, as you can see, have an extra risk going with this viral disease, which in general is very bad on the immunocompromised patients. So this is where basically I am. I always joke that this is probably the best thing that has come to the world through Twitter, because like I said, all of this was initiated through a social media platform. And we're looking forward to the first data cut that we had, which is about 1,000 patients, was last week. And we are in the process to submit a publication, which should be soon guiding the cancer doctors how to treat the patients who have been COVID positive. So that's my.
Well, thank you. I know you have a short time. Let's just chat with you a little bit, and then we'll invite Kevin to speak. So can you go a little deeper into this 1,000-patient cohort and what kinds of queries you're doing?
I would not be, I mean, those are, as you can imagine, anything that happens in healthcare, you have to be really extra cautious. So I cannot divulge all the details, but in the first thing that we are looking at is primarily the demographic distributions, the outcome distributions, and what kind of the prior history they have. It's a pretty nimble approach. So we would be able to, as the clinicians will demand, we will be able to then add more data points and then hope that they can go back and trace their patients and can enter it back to it. So anything that happens in such a short time, you cannot anticipate all the questions that would be coming and all the observations that you should have noted. But because we are flexible enough in our setup, because we're using the RedCap, which those of who you are in the healthcare would be very familiar. It is hosted and initiated by my home institution, the Vanderbilt. So we have the ability to go back and forth and ask these questions so long as the clinicians are aware of their patients, who they are. So I would not divulge any more than that. Wish me luck that we will have this publication out sometime this week. And then if everything goes well, probably it would be pretty out and quick for the public to digest, and then help us to ask more questions going back to those data sets.
Beautiful. Well, when that comes out, we'll be happy to share that with our community. Normally, we would wait until after all of our presentations to invite questions from those gathered, but if there's anyone who'd like to ask a question of Sanjay right now, you can unmute yourself and speak up.
Yeah, I really apologize. Sorry. Yeah, I really apologize. As it happens, these meetings are at multiple time zones, and they are stacked one after the other, which is the urgency of the time. I don't think anybody should be complaining about that right now.
No, this is not complaining. This is this is
Yes.
appreciation, my friend.
Yes, please.
I think someone did want to ask you a question.
Yeah, Sanjay, David Epstein. Is it possible for you to describe in a little bit more detail the data elements that you're collecting, and then also who has access to this data set?
I would not be able to describe you the data elements as it is. I think they are in the verge of we definitely share them with our participation institutions. So the way this process has been, we have a small survey. If you go to the website ccc19.org, you are any clinical provider who think he has the data. And in fact, in that sense, any patient has the data. They can fill their own data. We are not blocking anyone. But we definitely want some kind of a vetting process. So we assign them an institutional ID. And at that point, they have to sign a participation agreement, as you can understand why that should be. And so I cannot divulge you the data elements that we are tracking. But basically, the process is pretty straightforward. You reach out to us, sign the participation agreement that you will respect the privacy rights and all that. And at that point, you will be given a basic survey a priori. So even before you start filling in, you do have a PDF, so you know exactly what you will be filling in. We are not providing the data back to the participating institutions, but we are definitely working it out. The first set of the expectation has been that we will give the aggregated data as a public document as soon as we can. And then after that, we will get into the institutions with an arrangement where they can get their data and the general public data in due course.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? All right, well, we'll move on to Kevin. Sanjay, thank you for being here. Stay with us as long as you can, and we'll be coming back to you. And, you know, are you seeking additional centers to join?
Yes, we are still adding institutions, and any institution who wants to participate, they should go to the website. Let me see if I can get back to it. It's ccc19.org. There's a small survey which asks you basic question to make sure that you are eligible in that sense. And once you have reached out to us through that, we will initiate the onboarding process as quickly as possible. And yes, we are adding institutions all the time. We are not stopping for this. We don't have an optimum cutoff, and at that point, we would not be adding anymore.
Well, that's beautiful. And I see this as a call to us to do for the Westchester Biotech project to kind of do a campaign to our regional institutions to sign up with you.
That would be great. We have patient advocacy organizations who have been our primary voice along with the clinicians. And we think that this is a great utilization of the social media as awareness structure. And we are committed to do as best as we can to guide the future of this extremely uncertain event that we didn't see coming just a month back.
So I'll draft up something for your approval before we send it out to the world. But I think from between there and it sounds like I've been on your website. It's nice and straightforward, which is, I appreciate.
And if there are questions that come in the next hour and a half, please aggregate them and send them back so I can individually answer them.
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Be well. Michael taught me a new one. Stay positive, stay negative. Right? I like that. I stole it. Sorry. Kevin, I am going to make you presenter unless you'd like me to run your slides for you.
You can run them if you want.
All righty, let's do that.
It'd be easier for you.
Okay, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to make myself the presenter. Share my screen. And here we go. There you go. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
You sound good to me.
Well, yeah, it's a great opportunity to meet everyone. And thank you to Paul Savage for reaching out to me. And then Joanne, appreciate your invite to the event today. I think it's very worthwhile. I think the thing that is very interesting when you look at the situation we're in right now with regard to COVID, it's sort of every day when you listen to the White House and what they're predicting will happen or what won't happen, they are using data. Dr. Bricks evidently is a big user of data, and she believes in models, very much so to dictate what she will do. So never before, has the impact of data, modeling, et cetera, been so visible to the American public in a way that we're all relating to what's happening. Are we flattening the curve? Is the curve going up? So, data is a very important part of that whole mix. So what I was looking to do today was to engage with you with a discussion about, how artificial intelligence is really impacting the healthcare industry. And when I say healthcare, I'm including, payers like Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Empire Blue Cross and Blue Shield in New York, the providers, Mass General Hospital, Partners Healthcare, the large, institutions like Mayo Clinic, et cetera. They're the providers, as well as the biotech part of the industry, which are the people that are making the drugs, the J&Js, the Novartises, as well as the research that goes into the drug discovery, which is happening right now. So if you put all those pieces together, it's a very large ecosystem of companies and individuals, and the need for talent. Number one, talent. Smart humans. They're never going to. AI is never going to replace the human, by the way. The need for smart humans in that ecosystem is never greater, especially people who have what's called STEM, science, technology, math skills are very much a requirement. So what I was going to do was just kind of give you a feel for where I think we are with AI. And to preface that, a long time ago, an individual I knew said that the advancements and discoveries in biotech and life sciences will dwarf the impact of the internet, which is hard to believe when you think about it. But the impact of, let's say, finding a discovery drug, which I hope we do for, COVID, is going to be monumental because it's going to affect the whole world. So anyway, if you go to the next slide, I can kind of elaborate a little bit more about where I think we're going with AI. So AI is sort of an umbrella for a lot of different technologies. For example, within AI, you have something called machine learning, which is, machine to machine transfer of data and, processing of that data. You have another area which is called neuro-linguistic programming, which is another subset of AI. Within that mix, you may hear the word natural language processing, which is the processing of things like written words, spoken words. So that's another area within AI, natural language processing. Also, you may hear, predictive analytics. You may also hear prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive is like a doctor gives you a prescription to make you feel better and help your symptoms. So you may hear terms like that, but they're all underneath the umbrella of AI. And if you speak with the purists at Harvard or MIT, they may tell you that AI is really just a discipline for doing what humans do today. And so the AI aspect of it may be a little bit more narrower given the practitioner that you're speaking to. So if you build a predictive model, for example, as to how many people in White Plains are going to get get COVID-19. That's a fairly basic type of modeling exercise. But if you were to say, I'd like to be able to use human voice to be able to detect, how Joanne and Paul are feeling about a specific subject on a specific day, and I'd like that to be activated via their ecosystem or their in-home voice system. That kind of interaction between a human and a machine is more in line with what the purists think about with regards to AI. So when you think about AI and machine learning and some of the derivatives of that, there are ways in which that can help our healthcare system in many ways. The survey basically said to the people who were given a survey, where do you think AI and machine learning can help in areas that are really critical, population health type of issues, such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, neurological disease, and then infection disease. And this slide is a little bit old, but infection disease may be a little bit higher today if you were to ask people about that. So the AI and machine learning part of the equation here and where it fits into the Westchester Biotech is very important, because many of these companies that are out there doing research and need to have talent, they need to have facilities, they need to have labs. You might be able to, smaller ones, you may be able to have them focusing on certain areas like diabetes. So it's very important to look at, where AI is today, where machine learning is today, and the impact it could have on helping us all get healthier in the future. Now, someone brought up before, I think it may have been Paul, you brought up the fact about AI and data. AI has been around for a long time. It's been around for at least 30 years. So it's not something that's new to our technological world. But what is new is that now, as before, you had the capability with the amount of data that's out there, regular data, text data, voice, vision, et cetera. There's so much data that's out there that you can use to do your analysis, number one. And number two, never before have we had the type of compute capability that's being put out by Intel and some of the other larger computer manufacturers. Never before did we have that kind of capability to compute the amount of data that's available. So more so than in the past where AI was available, now, I would say now within the last year and a half to 2 years, it's becoming more and more realistic to be able to actually use these technologies to produce outcomes for the healthcare industry. Next slide. So if you look at where AI is playing a role, there's many different areas within the ecosystem. And when you think about the ecosystem, you have patients where AI is becoming a way of life for people, for example, that wear an Apple Watch. I don't know how many of you have an Apple Watch, but now you can have people who are wearing an Apple Watch be monitored for things such as diabetes, heart conditions, et cetera. So the whole idea of leveraging AI for the patient is becoming more and more real in terms of lifestyle advice. What they maybe what they eat, even what their nutrition should be. So a lot of the AI that you see in software packages on your iPhone or on your computer, have built-in algorithms to help with the connection between the lifestyle and the patient and helping them become more aware of what they do and what their lifestyle is. So AI is playing a role there. There are quite a few companies that are in that space that are making devices. Probably the biggest one right now that I think in the future will become more and more of a healthcare company is Apple. If you take a look at their Apple Watch and what they're doing with Apple, I think they're very, very quickly going to become more and more a provider of healthcare devices for us. Another area where AI is playing a role is in the area of radiology, where radiologists can do diagnosis, things such as MRI and imaging. There's a number of companies that are exploring the use of AI to do better and faster MRI. I don't know if anybody's gone through an MRI, but it's a very big machine. Normally, it's about $1 million for a machine like that. So if a company can do something to reduce the cost on that, they could basically revolutionize that part of the market. And there are companies that are doing that by incorporating into these new devices, new algorithms, new AI algorithms that help provide the radiologist with, views of the patient. So there's a lot going on in that area as well. With regards to physicians, the physician is being inundated with more and more regulations. More and more of the work that they have to do is involved with, filling out paperwork and making sure that they are not going to be sued by their patients. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of companies that are looking at, how do I put together a AI-based solution for a physician office where it is more like a clinician, a clinical support system where it helps the doctor to see more patients on give them more time, allow them to avoid filling out more paperwork and give them a breather with regards to some of these regulations that are overarching within their business. So there's work going on there where people are looking at building out clinical decision support systems for physicians. There's a lot going on, as you know, in research. I live in Massachusetts, where we do a lot of research around new drug discovery with companies like Novartis, Takeda Pharmaceutical, Biogen, AstraZeneca. So there's just a lot of work going on there. Again, requiring talent, number one, lab space. And here in Massachusetts, there are a number of labs that are available for people to go in. There's a lot of companies that are involved with the real estate business that make that available to the researchers in the biotech space. Boston has got a lot of also smaller biotech companies. Not large. They're not the large Novartis per se, but they're smaller research companies that are looking at new drug discovery. That potentially would be a breakthrough that would be acquired by a bigger company like a Novartis. So hand in glove with the research are the CROs, the contract research organizations, that put in place, ways of producing the drugs. There's a lot of work going on with them with regards to CRO laboratories. Again, they're a very large, they would be a very large client for CBRE, I think, for lab space, as an example. The other area is the actual drug maker. We had a situation up here in Massachusetts where there was a drug maker that was running afoul, and that made news over the last year and a half. So there's a lot that could be done using AI, advanced algorithms to basically monitor drug manufacturers, monitor the drug as it comes out. In the pharmaceutical world, tied in with biotech, there's a new area that's going on where the drug companies are looking at what's called real-world data, whereby they look at, if, for example, I was on a prescription medicine and then went into CVS and bought a aspirin or ibuprofen, et cetera, like that. The real world data would give them feedback as to if I had any kind of reaction to that, or I was affected in any way by the combination of those drugs. So that kind of real world data is being put into the mix as they build out these algorithms around the use of AI. So that's sort of a long drawn out discussion there. So I'm going to take a break and see if there's any questions.
I love this image. Actually, Kevin, I'm going to ask you to finish your presentation, because then we're going to actually call on each person that's on this call to introduce themselves and join the discussion. But thank you. This is did you create this slide yourself?
I had somebody help me do it. Yeah.
This the best slide I've seen yet to just show that story. So we'll talk. I'd love to credit you and share it with other people.
Yeah, so definitely share it with everybody. You can go to the next slide. So why is this important, and where could it have an impact on the Westchester Biotech initiative you got going? This is artificial intelligence market size by application. So for example, in the area of drug discovery, it's in green. You can see that's the largest segment right now of the use of AI is in drug discovery. The second largest is in blue, which is therapy planning, and that could be everything from behavioral health to rehabilitation planning. The next one, which is equal, is medical imaging and diagnosis, and the other one is hospital workflow. So you can see that this goes back a ways to a number of years ago, but it's really starting to pick up steam. And as you see over the next 3 or 4 years, this chart shows you where the growth is going to be, and it's a good one to show to the other interested parties that say, you can say, hey, look, if you build a lab in Ardsley or White Plains, these are the kind of growth projections you could see. And I think today, probably with COVID, the drug discovery part of it may be even larger. So, next slide. Go back one. Go back. So you see, no, go back. Go ahead. You go forward. Yeah. So the growth is there, and there's a lot of companies that are in this space. This chart shows you the different startup companies, and I didn't have time to look at how many are in New York, but I'm sure there may be a few in New York that are involved with this. But they're broken out into imaging and diagnostic companies. These are all companies that are either funded by venture funding or private equity funding or some sort of a mechanism for them to, grow the company. So you have people that are doing work in imaging and diagnostics. Drug discovery is another big area. There's a lot of drug discovery that goes on in, Boston's a big area, San Francisco's a big area, San Diego's a big area for drug discovery, and so that's another big bucket. The predictive analytics and risk scoring, is another area where you can see money going into AI startups. Genomics, another. Fitness, I thought fitness would be a little bigger than this, but evidently not. There's areas of the space where that is. Virtual assistant is another area where AI is being used. Another, rounding out this, you have hospital decision support systems, you have clinical trials, you have nutrition, remote monitoring. Mental health is on the low side as well, even though that is an area where they probably should do more right now. But this is a good list of companies that are in that space for healthcare AI startups to watch, and they would be companies that I would think could be interested in the Westchester Biotech initiative, what you're doing, and then building out the community. They probably would be receptive to a session like this in the future. Next slide. So in addition to AI funding for startups, there's a lot going on right now with the larger companies that are working with smaller partnerships or acquisitions within AI. One that I know is a company here that's working with Bristol Myers Squibb, a company called Patient Ping, is in the Boston area. I'm connected a little bit with the Sloan School through the work I do with the MIT Mentor Venturing Group. So I know there's a lot going on with MIT and that institution. And it might be actually I can get you introductions to the MIT group that would be helpful maybe for you, Joanne and Paul, to get connected with regarding the work you're doing in Westchester. IBM is very much involved with many of these companies, so if you don't have them on the list, they should, because the headquarters right there in Westchester County. And Intel, other big companies, a lot of these firms might be interested in contributing some funds to help promote the community and build out the awareness of AI in healthcare. So that sort of wraps up. I think it's an exciting area, and I love what you're doing, and I think you're on the right track. So I appreciate the time and interest.
Well, thank you so much. This is